Hey, what's up and hello? This is the Chris Nicole bringing you my views on life, love, and the world of entertainment through my eyes. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on what time you are watching this live. Hello, crew. Hope all is well. Make sure you hit the likety like button on the way in. Hit the like and hit the hype for your girl. So, listen, I was actually talking about this with a friend of mine, and I typically, while I've touched on this here and there on my channel, I typically have not touched on this a lot on my channel strictly because I've noticed that more and more people are very, very emotional. Sometimes where they're so emotional, they just don't think logically at all or just have a way to just agree to disagree. But this is 2026. And at this point, I'm at a point where I'm like, look, I think this is a great conversation to have, whether we agree to disagree. If you don't like it, fine. It's perfectly fine. But I'm just going to talk about this because, first things first, as you guys are probably aware, I am a Christian woman. Now, God is working on me. I have had issues with cursing and so many other things. But God is definitely working on me. But as you guys are probably aware, I am a Christian woman. I have said that plenty of times on my channel. Okay. There is only one living God for me, and that is Yahweh. Now, if you have your own personal beliefs, that's perfectly fine. I am not judging it, but for me, I serve the Lord. With that being said, I am strictly coming at this from a spiritual angle, okay? I will talk about my opinion like I've talked about my opinion before on the actual movie itself, but I am talking about this on a spiritual angle as far as this movie is concerned. Now, with that being said, Sinners, okay, is definitely a movie that has been out and about and has been in the public eye, and they have made sure that it stays in the public eye since it pretty much came out, okay? Now, I have done 2 actual videos on this and even touched on actually an actor from Power, I think his name is pronounced Rotimi, talking about witchcraft and different things like that in the industry. I've actually touched on that and talked about a little bit of that with Sinners. But with that being said, I've talked about the movie and how I felt about it on a visual level, but then also on a writing level. And I must say that I have definitely fallen into the mindset of, because I crave so much of seeing Black people behind the scenes and in front of the camera, film, TV, just where we can have representation. I crave it like a lot of us crave it. Sometimes I crave it so much that I tend to ignore certain things on a spiritual level sometimes. With that being said, I already know someone is probably going to come out and make a comment of, well, why you got to focus on the Black films? Because I'm a Black woman. And my culture is Black American culture. So naturally, I have seen more Black films. I listen to more Black music. That's what I grew up on. So naturally, I am going to talk about things that I can relate to more, which is Black culture. So before someone goes there, yes, this stuff happens in all areas, in other cultures as well, but I'm a Black woman, a Black American woman at that. So I'm definitely going to talk about things that are related to my community, my culture. So, Sinners, today is the Oscars for those who don't know. Okay, because I know a lot of you guys probably don't watch award shows because they're boring. But today are the Oscars. And one thing about it is that Sinners for the past couple of weeks has definitely received a lot of highlights. But more importantly, there was definitely things that shown up during the actual time where Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, and even the beautiful lady who was the supporting actress, Wemi, I can't pronounce her name, but she's the beautiful chocolate woman who plays the supporting actress in Sinners. They definitely brought up a lot of things during the promotion of this movie that, of course, I noticed after I watched the movie that spiritually I was blinded to while watching a movie that made me take pause after seeing what they were saying. Also, considering the fact that I had to separate the visual aspect of the movie versus the writing of the movie. I spoke about that on the writing aspect of this movie, saying that there were a lot of stereotypes and a lot of things in the writing and the writing alone that I was just like, there's a lot of stereotypes as far as Black women, and then like the dark-skinned Black woman versus this white woman that they're trying to say is octoroon, quadroon, whatever, but she's a white woman to me, and how they're treated in the movie. So with that being said, I'm going to play certain things because they talked about how there was hoodoo that was shown in this movie. Not only do they talk about how hoodoo was shown in this movie, they talk about how they actually had a hoodoo priest on set of this movie. Okay, so there was actually someone there who practices hoodoo who was there on the set of Sinners. Okay, I also talked about on this channel, Michael B. Jordan said he was a Babalu, and he said it really fast on a red carpet during the interview at Sinners. He said he was a Babalu. And again, this is for entertainment and educational purposes only. But he said it was a Babalu, and for those who research what a Babalu is essentially a voodoo priest. Okay, not to mention Ryan Coogler mentioned a couple of times that this actual movie was kind of dedicated to his uncle who passed during Creed. And he mentioned 2 times, or maybe even more than that, in several interviews while promoting this movie, that he felt like when he was playing blues music, he was conjuring up his uncle's spirit. All right. Now, one thing about it, for those who are Christian or at least know about Christianity, is that we don't wrestle with flesh. We wrestle with spirits. Okay. So it's not the flesh that you got to worry about, it's the spirit. So when you have people messing with you or certain things, you got to understand that there is a spirit inside that person. Sometimes they're being used as a vessel. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to preach, but it is what it is. So when those things came up, and then all of a sudden, we had the situation at the British Film Awards that they just had, like I believe in February. But I'm going to actually let you guys listen to some of these things that Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan have said, so you guys can hear it for yourself. Shout out to this guy who actually was able to just to take certain clips. I wanted to do a live on this versus actually doing a pre-recorded. I could have did the clips myself, but he actually was able to clip all of it. His name is Aaron, I believe. And I can actually link you guys the actual clip of the videos that he did. He is also a Christian man, but I'm going to let you guys hear certain things. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this and what's possibly going on with this whole situation in this movie. So let me know, put a thumbs up if you can actually hear this, okay?
Story. Oh man, I mean, I think Cool probably answered that one a little bit better. Like, why this one? Yeah, I was done making the last Black Panther. It took a long time. I wanted to make something a little more personal, something original. And I've been listening to a lot of blues records, and chiefly because I was missing my uncle James, who was born and raised in Mississippi, but then moved to Oakland in his 20s. And he was the elder statesman of our family. Yeah. Whenever I would spend time with him, he just want to play old blues, vinyl records. He'd drink Old Taylor whiskey and tell me about Mississippi. Nice. And he passed away when we were finishing up Creed in 2015. So I would oftentimes play records to kind of conjure his spirit, to feel like I was hanging out with him again. And the idea for this film came to me. I always loved genre films as well. I hadn't had a chance to make one yet, a horror movie. So I kind of combined those 2 ideas. And the movie feels like a blues song. The twins are named after the Smokestack Lightning. Holland Wolf song. Yeah. And a lot of characters are you're pulling from African American mythology.
Now, right here, Ryan Coogler is going to tell.
Okay, so y'all heard that, right? He said conjuring up his spirit. All right, so you heard that. He mentions that also in another one that he said he feels like when he plays blues music, he is conjuring up his spirit.
Where from?
So with that being said, he also talks about in this clip where he talks about Michael B. Jordan being so he doesn't say possession or being possessed, but he says he's in such a zone that it almost scared not only him, but it definitely kind of freaked out Ruth Carter, who is like the costume designer. She's like a known costume designer. She did it for Black Panther. She's like the lady. I think she's won like 2 Oscars so far as her costume designing.
African-American mythology.
Now, right here, Ryan Coogler is going to tell a story about how Michael B. Jordan dived into his character role a little too soon and a little too far, and how this drastically scared the costume designer and sent cold chills down the spine of Ryan Coogler. Let's check this out real quick.
And I'll never forget, bro, like day 0 when we were shooting, he came to shut out Smoke. And Ruth Carter, who's a legendary costume boss, she came up to me. And I could tell she was like a little bit flustered. You know what I'm saying? She was like, "Hey, I got these. She's like, I got this jewelry. I got different. Like kind of getting the costumes together." And she was saying like, you gotta look at it and tell me what you want him. And I put both things on him. And she kind of was like, I could tell she kind of had a, So Mike walked up, and I've been knowing Mike a long time, bro. You know what I mean? Like we homies, you feel me? And some of all his energy just making my blood run cold. You know what I mean? So I asked him the question that she wanted. It was like something about a bracelet, if he wanted a bracelet or something or not. And I said, "Hey, bro, do you want the bracelet on this arm for Smoke or this arm?" And he said, "I'm indifferent." But he said in like this deep Southern accent, you know what I'm saying? And I looked at him and I was like, "Oh shit!" He talked completely like he's completely somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And he had like a 1,000-yard stare. You feel me? And I was like, "Oh man, we gotta get to work." I put him right in the car and started shooting. I don't even know if I took the bracelet off or not. You know what I mean?
Okay, so y'all heard that, right? So he says that he said it in a very thick Southern accent. And like it made his blood run cold. And even Ruth Carter was like freaking out. That does sound like some spiritual stuff. You feel what I'm saying? So this is all happening while on set with this hoodoo priest that is there to help them understand hoodoo. But I would say it was probably, in my opinion, more than helping them understand hoodoo. It's giving me vibes that it was being practiced on set, and it's giving me vibes that they were conjuring up those type of spirits and things on set, okay, to do whatever, whether it was to get into the feels of what it's like or to help them along the way to make this very successful. The reality is that people get involved in a lot of these practices because it works fast, because of the fact that, you know what I mean, you can get certain things that you don't know what kind of spirits you're conjuring up and things that are happening, because he's talking about conjuring up his uncle's spirit in the Bible. Again, I'm going from a Christian aspect of this. The people who have passed on do not know what the living are doing. So that means that if you conjuring up a spirit, trust and believe that is not an uncle's spirit or whoever's spirit. That is a demon spirit. Point blank, period. So hearing these things while they were actually on set is quite interesting what they were doing. This is while on set. So I'm kind of not shocked about possibly some of the things that have gone on, especially for those who really do a deep dive into what's going on with a lot of these people who are into these different practices.
On how blues music and African ancestry helped inspire him to create this movie, and how all of this ties into one oddly profound person in the past that made a deal with the devil. Let's check it out.
Music, because Brian, come on, like that scene where, you can just see the flow between the blues and all the different kinds of music. Why was it important for you to reflect that even as we wrap up this interview?
That's a great question. Through the supernatural element of the movie, the movie had to be shown like with this framing of the concept of eternity. Mm-hmm. That's a concept that vampires are associated with, but it's also a concept that it's very unnatural for one group of people to dominate another group of people, right? But a part of the pattern when you see that and you study that is the attempt to break those people off from the context of what's happened before and what's coming after. You know, to break the language, to break any ancestral theology, to break the ritual practices, and that was happening in 1932 with these specific people. You know, at an extremely conscious and effective rate. So the movie had to be in conversation with the practices that break through that. You know, music, ritual gatherings, food, like all of these things. You see echoes of where these people are actually from, and where they're going. You know, so the film had to have that element. Just as much as it had to have all the blood and guts and jump scares. It needed that too, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so here is where things are about to get really dark and really sinister. Ryan Coogler is about to elaborate on how blues music helped him get through a time when his uncle passed away, and the eerie situation between the blues music that he listened to and a guy named Robert Johnson, who made a deal with the devil. Let's check this out real quick.
But I had a lot of love for my uncle, man, and he passed away in 2015 when I was doing post-production on Creed. And when I got the news that he died, I was in a post-production facility in Los Angeles. I felt so far and disconnected from home that it really kind of broke me, you know. So I never really reckoned with, missing him properly. You know, went back home for the funeral, but I would often find myself putting on those old blues records to remind myself of him. And it would almost be like I was conjuring him. Like if I listened to it long enough and closed my eyes, I could feel him like kind of listening along with me.
He says conjuring again. This is a whole different interview. The first time he said that, he was on The View. This time he's with Sirius XM, I believe. Yeah, I think that's who he's with. But yeah, this is his second time saying conjuring spirit.
He telling me a story again. So when I got this idea to make this movie, I wanted to dive into like what Mississippi was, what that Delta blues music was, what was it about that region, and when I investigated it. You know, that this time, you know, like the late 20s, early 30s was really like that time when it really took off. You know, the blues as we know it, and a lot of mythology, a lot of spirituality. You know, a lot of the supernatural vibe is right there in the music. A lot of these musicians had songs about being haunted by the devil and being chased by their worst nightmares and trying to escape certain things, both natural and supernatural. One of the more famous tales is the tale of Robert Johnson, who went to the crossroads and well, he had a song called Hellhounds on My Trail. Yeah, he had Me and the Devil Blues is a famous one. You know, but the legend had it that he went to the crossroads. He wasn't that good of a guitar player. Went to the crossroads one night, and in Western concepts, like I said, the devil came to him and tuned his guitar for him for the price of his soul, and he came back playing better than anybody had ever heard. As I researched, I learned that it wasn't necessarily the devil, but it was a figure named Papa Legba, you know, who was an African deity.
Let's stop it right there. He said it wasn't the devil, it was an African deity. What is deity? It's considered a god or a goddess. Understand? He said, oh, no, it's not the devil, but it's an African deity. Here's the problem with that, though. And again, I'm talking about this on a spiritual level. If you believe in the God that I believe in, and if you're a Christian, we don't believe in African deities. There's only one God, right? There's only one God. So deities are considered quote unquote demigods, or they call them, you know what I'm saying, idols, Baal in the Bible. Yeah. So when you're saying, oh, it's not the devil's African deity, well, for us, anything outside of the one true living God, yeah, that's a spirit. That's a demonic spirit, because it's definitely not God, Yahweh. So again, the way that they're explaining this, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. It's not the devil. It's just the African deity. Well, for us, everything is spiritual. That's not Yahweh. That is not Jesus. That is not Yeshua. So let me continue.
And you know, once I unlocked that, it became fascinating for me, and I learned that this contribution, man, like the Delta Blues, is really like America's greatest contribution to global popular culture. You know, and at that time, in that place, it was very hard to be Black and be seen as a human being. You know.
And keep in mind that, yes, he is giving us history, but again, in the history, it's very, very spiritual, the things that he is saying and the things that they clearly, based on what they're even saying, were doing on set. I don't know what Ryan Coogler's background is as far as his religious beliefs. I do know, from my understanding, when he was doing Fruitvale Station, he actually went to a very popular church, from my understanding, in Oakland. I want to say it's Allen Baptist, but correct me if I'm wrong for those from the Bay Area. I believe he went to Allen Baptist Church to actually get people to donate money so he can finish Fruitvale Station. Does that necessarily mean that he's a Christian? No. I mean, you have people who go to church every Sunday and they're not Christians. You know, they talk about witches and warlocks being in church on a every Sunday basis. So that doesn't mean anything, but he definitely is familiar with the church. But the fact that this stuff is being so bold now, this stuff is bold. They are actually being very vocal about what they believe in now, what they're doing now, even if they say it really, really fast, and they're saying it so slick and so smooth that you would probably not even know what they're saying, what's going on, or even bother to look it up. This is what's going on. So again, conjuring up spirits.
And through that affirmation, they gave the world a gift that you know continues to give, and it gives internationally. So with that, I kind of was like, man, I gotta make this movie big, man. That's why we shot on IMAX cameras. I got the biggest movie stars I could find, you know, the best young talent to play Preacher Boy. Leverage all my personal relationships that I amassed over the year.
So he says because of that, he needed to make this big as possible, to get as much attention as possible. So let me go to actually going to the part where he talks about the guy, of course, who sold his soul so he could play music. If you think about it, that's exactly what happened in Sinners to a certain extent. Sammy literally was willing to leave the church behind for his music. There were a lot of instances in this actual movie that were very anti-Christian. And again, if you're not Christian, you may see that there ain't no big deal over here. I don't care. That's fine. But I'm talking about this on a spiritual perspective. There was literally a lot of stuff in there when he left the church behind to play his music. The scene that was, to me, the most powerful and beautiful scene of this actual movie, where you saw all the different elements of the music in the scene in the juke joint. That was, to me, the most beautiful scene, where it was talking about the African drums and hip hop and everything else. During that scene, I believe there was some quote where he said, "The religion that was given to us," which is a misconception that Christianity was given to Black people in slavery, when the reality is there was Christianity already in Africa. There was Christianity already there, but they always want to say slavery, Christianity was forced on us. Now, the reality is there was the Christianity that's not the true Christianity that people were using and trying to manipulate the Bible and God's words and everything else to try to force certain things on slavery. But Christianity in itself, it was not a situation where we did not know about Christianity until we were forced to come here. But with that being said, we're talking about that part. I wanted you guys to hear what the actual young lady said in regards to her, what's her name? Who? I'm sorry if I'm not saying her name correctly, but she talks about the situation where the hoodoo priest was there, and she says it's nothing wrong and it's nothing bad about what they were teaching us or what they were doing. Like, there's nothing wrong at all with, you know, the practices that they have. And again, you may think there's nothing wrong with the practices that they have. That's perfectly fine that you feel like nothing is wrong. However, the way that I was raised and what that Bible says, everything is wrong with that, because you're not supposed to mix. You're not supposed to do the hoodoos, the voodoos, and like you can't serve two masters. So with that being said, everything is particularly wrong with that. And the fact that they have that on the actual set again, it really makes me wonder when he says, I needed to make this big. What else were you doing on the spiritual side behind the scenes to try to make it even bigger? Because this is not the first time that people have talked about Ryan Coogler and what he's possibly dabbling into. Black Panther, for example, a lot of people were talking about also he brought in the whole Marine spirits and stuff in Black Panther as well, okay? I'm sure you guys can look into that on YouTube yourself. So this is not the first time, but this is the first time that they're being very bold and vocal about this. Now, I am going to look up the situation with Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan actually says that he is a Babalu, all right?
Michael B. Jordan, the B stands for Makari, which means of noble promise.
Correct. You know your stuff.
All right. Who gave you that name, and how do you think it shaped the man you are today?
I'm a Babalawo, and my mom, when I was born, I got the name, fresh out the womb, and I try to, live in that purpose, every day since. Yeah.
And you've been doing just.
He said he's
Michael
a
B.
Babalawo.
Jordan, the B stands for Makari, which means of noble promise.
Correct. You know your stuff.
All right. Who gave you that name, and how do you think it shaped the man you are today?
I'm a Babalawo, and my mom, when I was born, I got the name, fresh out the womb.
Okay, so y'all heard that, right? That is of the Yoruba religion or the practice that's like Ifa. And that is, in other words, what is considered a voodoo priest. All right. So with that being said, again, we have Michael B. Jordan. We have Ryan Coogler. I am trying to find what is this child's name. And I had it up. Forgive me, you guys. But literally the lady who played Michael B. Jordan's so-called love interest or whatever the case may be, she mentions that it literally is not that bad and it's not an issue, but she talks about having a hoodoo priest on set.
Media has kind of shown us like a very dark side of voodoo, and I didn't know it was such a healing, loving, spiritual, connected practice.
Your character, Annie, the way that she's the healer of the group, could you talk a little bit about exactly what he told you as far as like indigenous and African and, former slave rituals that he was borrowing from when he sort of like crafted the mythology of your character?
Hoodoo is a real practice, and we had a hoodoo consultant, and I spoke to hoodoo priestesses, so it is very much grounded and real and practiced, and I think he's really treated it with as much respect and honor as possible, because I do feel like the Western media has kind of shown us like a really dark side of voodoo, and I didn't know it was such a healing, loving, spiritual, connected practice. I feel so empowered and inspired by the people I've met in my research. So yeah, she's very real, and that practice is very real. I guess the thing that isn't real is the vampires. Media has kind of shown.
Okay, y'all heard that. That is her. All right. So, hoodoo priest, Babalawo. I always say Babalu, Babalawo, but look it up. Babalawo, look it up. And conjuring spirits. And then here happens in February of this year. The Britain Awards that they had, the film awards. All right, let's talk about it. So, one thing about it is that people were saying that Sinners definitely, after they talked about all of these practices and what they were doing, next thing you know, Sinner becomes the most nominated movie in the history of the Oscars. Okay, now, as much as I loved the cinematography, again, because I'm no hater, the cinematography, and I would say even a good amount of the directing was spot on. The cinematography was absolutely amazing. Ryan Coogler, as far as his directing is concerned, and whoever the cinematographer was, who I definitely think should win tonight, spot on. The writing even though they're saying they think Ryan Coogler is going to win, much to be desired still. I feel like if I compare, say, a Sinners with Get Out that recently won a couple of years back, Get Out, hands down. Mind you, I've read both scripts. I have both scripts because you can just, when people win Oscars and stuff, you can download the scripts and read them for yourself. If you compare Get Out writing with Sinners, hands down, I can see why Get Out. Get Out was absolutely amazing. The twists and turns, the subtleness of everything. There's definitely a difference. I'll just say that. There's definitely a difference. With that being said, all right, most nominated movie in history. That, I was like, wow. I was like, oh, okay. Most nominated over, I'm comparing to Black movies, over Malcolm X, over Lady Sings the Blues. These are some of mine that I felt like kind of got slighted over the years. Over Malcolm X, over Lady Sings the Blues, over A Boys in the Hood, over, like, I'm like, wow, okay, all right. Most nominated in history out of all movies, most nominated. I was like, okay. Now, found that interesting. After all of this hoodoo, voodoo, conjuring talk, all right? Because again, people go that route. They say it's for spirituality, but the thing is that just like God has power and the ultimate power, you know what I'm saying? God has power and the ultimate power. The dark side has power too. The problem is you just don't know how much that dark side is going to take you to a place that you don't want to go, like hell. But again, this is why a lot of people go that route, because it's quick, it's fast. They can get what they want instead of being patient for God. So I was like, okay, well, I guess what they doing in the background and all of the stuff that they're saying loud and clear and making it seem so nice and sweet, what they doing, it got them the most nominated. It got them the most nominated. Then the Brit Awards comes up. And I don't know if you guys have been under a rock, but the whole situation with the guy with TS, Tourette syndrome, he ends up saying the N-word. Mind you, he said other things during the actual ceremony too, but the N-word caused the most controversy. And also because the people who run the awards did not edit it. How convenient. It wasn't edited. Now, they edited other things that were said from this man, and even people who got on the podium and said, you know what I'm saying, things about the war and everything else. They were able to edit that. They did not edit that particular situation. I don't blame the guy with the TS, because even a Black, I think she's a therapist or a doctor who also has TS, she even said that particular type of TS, those things do happen. So who am I who doesn't have it? And there are Black people who are advocates who have it too, who are out there speaking on this. They are saying these are things that do occur. They do occur. That's what they're saying. All right. Even Yaya, my girl Yaya from America's Next Top Model, she first came out with something saying, nah, I have TS and I hold it together so certain things don't happen. But she had to come back to apologize because she said she had to get educated on the type of TS he has and how that can, you know, is totally different. That being said, that does not mean that because that happened that Michael B. Jordan, you know, and Delroy Lindo, that does not mean that they can't feel a certain type of way. And that doesn't mean that us as a community can't feel a certain type of way when these type of things happen, okay? So I'm not saying that we shouldn't feel a certain way. But how many of y'all have heard of ritual humiliation or humiliation ritual? Some people say ritual humiliation ritual. I find it interesting that this happened at this particular point, right before the Oscars and other awards. They didn't edit it out. We know that, you know, certain things, certain promotion, a lot of things happen, good, bad, or indifferent. Promotion and a lot of things do happen around the awards time to get people talking, whether it's good or bad. You see it happen with the Grammys. You see it happen with other awards. But how convenient does this happen? They don't edit it. This is the talk of like literally everyone Then next thing you know, if you guys watch the whole movies and the predictions, Michael B. Jordan he was a contender for Best Actor because he was nominated, but no one was thinking about him winning that award at all. It was between two other guys, and one, gosh, I'm losing my brain cells right now. It was between two other guys that people thought. A lot of people didn't even think Leonardo DiCaprio was actually going to win, okay? But Michael B. Jordan, while people were saying, oh yeah, he's nominated, they weren't thinking he was going to win. But all of a sudden, this happens. The buzz goes out about how they were treated. Michael B. Jordan ends up getting the SAG award. They weren't even thinking that he was going to potentially win the SAG award. Okay, yeah, Timothy. They were saying Timothy Chalamet, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, I'll butcher it, and Wagner Moura, they kept saying those were the top two that were going to win. Okay? I don't even think Michael B. Jordan was winning the other awards prior to this. He won the NAACP award naturally, but all of a sudden this comes out. And again, God is not, at least the God I serve is not a God of confusion. He's not a God of he's a God of peace, under sound mind. There's been a lot of drama when it comes to this stuff. A lot of drama when it comes to sinners. Now, all of a sudden, Michael B. Jordan wins the SAG award. And now within 2 weeks' time, everybody is predicting that Michael B. Jordan is going to win Best Actor. Best Actor for Sinners. Now, what is my opinion on Michael B. Jordan's acting in this particular movie? I think Michael B. Jordan is a great actor. In my opinion, Michael B. Jordan is not Best Actor worthy for this particular movie. And here's why. He played two characters in this movie. He played twins. But for those who watched the movie, did you feel there was a significant difference in the acting and personality of both characters, Smoke and Stack, that he played? It when you see Smoke and Stack, did he give them different personalities? Did he act out different personalities to where we saw while they were twins, they were different in their mannerisms, in how they carried themselves? Forget the fact that they had on a red hat and a blue hat and different things to make them look different. One had more of a gold tooth in the front. Forget that. I am talking about the acting in itself. Did he actually nail playing these two, while identically looking a lot alike, two different personalities? I know several sets of twins. I'm sure for those who may know several sets of identical twins, if you just know one really well, you can literally be walking somewhere and see that other twin and know instantly that's not the person that you know just by how they talk, their mannerisms, all of that stuff. Did you guys feel there was significant difference in his character playing both of those roles? For me, no. In my opinion, I feel like he did more of a phenomenal job in Creed than he did in this. But that is just my opinion on the situation. Y'all let me know what your opinion is on the situation, respectfully, of course. So the fact that all of this is happening, and now Michael B. Jordan potentially is going to win Best Actor. And of course, we'll have to see tonight. We'll have to see. Now they're also predicting that they could win Best Picture. And Ryan Coogler is going to win potentially Best Screenplay. Cinematography, they're still saying director is going to go to the guy who did the Battle movie. But very interesting that literally all of these spiritual things are being talked about. They're mentioning all of these spiritual things that were going on set, and how here we are now. And again, we'll have to see what's going to happen tonight. Here we are now that a shift has changed yet again about this movie. And now Michael B. Jordan is one of the top contenders for Best Actor. Like almost everybody at this point is predicting he's going to be Best Actor. And some of them have even admitted that a couple weeks ago, they didn't think he was going to win, but now things have shifted. Well, what the heck shift? What actually shift to make y'all all of a sudden change y'all mind? Because let me tell you something now. Wow, what happens, even though that guy has TS, was completely messed up, and it was absolutely, I'm sure they had a mixed up emotions, humiliating, and all the things that happened when that happened, and the anger that probably came up when that guy said what he said. Don't give me a sympathy award. Don't give me a sympathy award. When before that happened, Michael B. Jordan was nominated, but a lot of people were predicting. And I'm talking about the people who are true predictors. Most of the time, these people who predict, they usually, make sure you guys hit the like button, they usually end up being right. The predictions are usually right. There are certain people that you see their predictions and then the Oscars happen and you're like, dang, they were spot on 99%. They weren't even thinking about Michael B. Jordan. Now, all of a sudden, the Britain Awards happen. Michael B. Jordan is a top contender. He's going to win it. Sympathy? Because no, you give me my accolades because I absolutely deserve it. But again, this man admitted that he's a babalua, or babaloo, whatever, a voodoo priest. Who's to say that he still ain't doing something behind the scenes to try to get all the accolades that he can get off of this movie? Which honestly, I don't understand the big hype about these awards, which shows you that a lot of people truly aren't doing it for the art of it. They're doing it for the accolades. Because have y'all not heard of the Oscar curse, especially when it comes to minorities? Like, have y'all not heard of that? Where it's like, you win the Oscar and then all of a sudden it's like, what the heck happens to the actual, you know what I'm saying, person who had this amazing like moment of winning an Oscar, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, what happened to their career? Jamie Foxx, Halle Berry, we clearly know about Monique. Monique ain't gonna let that situation go. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know that, but literally you want these Oscars so bad just to potentially not have the career that you want ever again after you get that Oscar. But again, people are willing to sell their souls to get certain things. And that's just what it is. Not saying that they are, but again, just as bold as they are about what they're practicing or what they feel isn't that bad, I do feel that Christians need to be more out there about what we need to believe in and what we need to see and not see. Again, when I watch this movie, I have to actually get into the habit of praying about certain things before I decide to entertain it. And I might be getting too deep for y'all, but let's talk about that, because I just went to go see Sinners again because it was a Black movie and I was trying to support a Black movie, not understanding that they done had hoodoo priest and voodoo priest and everything else on this set. So who's to say that they weren't conjuring up that stuff to try to make this movie successful? And they're not the only ones who do it. You have people in the music industry too who practice these type of things, and they say it boldly in their music. And they show their altars and stuff on Instagram and things like that. So again, we are not supposed to entertain these type of things. And it's one thing when it's so subtle that you don't see it, but now people are bold. They are so bold talking about this, and it's like, wow, like he had no problem saying what he does. She had no problem saying hoodoo isn't bad, and it's a beautiful thing. And Ryan Coogler had no problem talking about conjuring up spirits and how an African deity is not a devil, it's an African deity. Well, the last time I checked, a deity means a god. So what are we talking about here? You know, like, what are we talking about here? So I wanted to bring this up, you guys. Do you think that all of this spiritual stuff is what's causing a shift in now them being top contenders of actually winning, not just being nominated, but actually winning? What do you guys think is going to happen tonight? What do you think is going to happen tonight? Because I just find it interesting that now all of a sudden Michael B. Jordan is they're saying, oh, he's going to win this. And I literally had to stop my tracks when I heard it. I said, since when is Michael B. Jordan winning this award? They have not been saying that for the past several weeks. And then I had to do my research. I said, oh, so now he got called the N-word. Now all of a sudden there's a shift and now he's a top contender? What kind of trickery, magic stuff is that? Now, some of y'all may feel he deserves it. But again, I've told you guys where I feel they definitely should win. And I'm just giving some of the top ones they should win. I would say that definitely I would say Ryan Coogler should win director. I don't think he's going to win director. But I do understand why they wouldn't give him director. I understand why they wouldn't give it to him because, again, Battle, everybody keeps saying the acting was phenomenal. Like the acting was absolutely phenomenal to where Tiana Taylor, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, all of them were phenomenal. One thing about Sinners is, again, I don't think Michael B. Jordan really portrayed how different these twins were. And a lot of that also comes from the directing aspect of it. I don't necessarily know how much Ryan directs Michael B. Jordan. I feel like their connection is so strong that he just lets Michael B. Jordan do his thing. But I think better direction on this, on really showing how significantly different the twins were and how they moved and talked and walked, would have definitely really showed his acting chops. And really the difference in these characters who just so happen to be identical twins. I don't think that he did that, but the Battle movie, everyone keeps talking about how the acting, especially the phone scene, was absolutely phenomenal. So that's why, and also the history of that director. But that's one thing about directing, to push the best out of your actual actors, period. Been here a while, but MS won't let me be. Oh, it's okay. Kashara, you was here yesterday too, girl, 2 times in a row. Hey, you guys, I'm sorry. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Danielle. Hey, Jay. What's up? Hey, Bill. Hey, Kevin. Y'all let me know if you guys are still in here. What do you guys think about this? Because honestly, and again, I personally feel like them bringing this up is a way for people to explore these lifestyles and religions more. They're bringing it up for a reason. It's almost to me coming off that they're bringing it up to say, hey, look at what we do and look at the accolades that we're receiving based on our beliefs and what we do. You see this? Michael B. Jordan, literally been a child actor since he was a kid, but does Fruitvale Station. And the next thing you know, he just blows up overnight. Ryan Coogler the same. And yet no one's mentioning Jesus. No one's mentioning Christianity. They're definitely mentioning African deities, hoodoo and voodoo. And look where we are now. We have the most nominated movie in the history of the Oscars. Yeah. And we're going to win all of these Oscars, or a good amount of these Oscars. See what it is on this side of the spirituality. I think that's why they're doing that. Okay? But again, for me, I know the devil is a liar. Amen? I know the devil's a liar. And I do know that at the end of the day, while those things may work fast and it helps people get to where they want as far as their careers, at what cost? What is the point of gaining the world and losing your soul? You see what I'm saying? What is the point of that? What is the purpose of that? So for me, that is for me, because at the end of the day, life here on this earth is very short compared to where you're going to be for eternity, forever. So that's my take on it. Yeah, it is deep. Sorry, but a lot of people don't like to be that deep. A lot of people just, want to hear the funny things and things like that. But I was talking to my friend about this. I said, you know what? This is my channel. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. And I'm not saying that everyone in the industry goes this way. I'm not saying that. But what I do know is it seems that the ones who are going this way, they're being more and more bold about talking about it in public. More and more talking about it on interviews. You know what I mean? Which is interesting because it's almost like you don't hear about Jesus. You don't even hear about God in general anymore, even if you believe in another God, but you're hearing about this spirituality, the hoodoos and the voodoos and all of that stuff. And I'm like, why? There used to be a balance, or better yet, there used to be a time that people used to not talk about those type of practices they did at all in public. You just didn't hear it. But if you guys notice, more and more people are talking about it. Beyonce, oh yes, she talks about it in her music. She even talking about plugging her menses with the pages in the Bible. Summer Walker. Now, from my understanding, Kalani used to be a part of this spirituality too, but Kalani has now given her life to Christ. So again, if you don't, some of y'all who listen to me may be Muslim. Some of y'all may listen to me that may practice this stuff. You can practice what you want, but like I said, I am talking about the spiritual aspect of this and what I represent. You see what I mean? And to me, it's getting very deep and very dark with what they're trying to show and how successful that they feel that they are because of these practices that they are allegedly practicing. And it's so subtle. The devil is a trickster. So subtle how they say these things in the most loving and kind way. It's not coming off in an offensive way, an aggressive way, but yeah, it's healing. It's a practice, and the love that I saw that they did, and it's just, you know, I just learned so much. They're saying it in a very loving way, to where those who aren't really rooted in anything or really rooted in the word, as someone who used to be what's considered a cultural Christian, someone who went to church every Sunday with the family but didn't open up the Bible. Yes, I admit it. And I know some of y'all understand that you was forced to go to church every Sunday, but you actually knowing that word and really digging into it. And I'm still need to be disciplined in that more. Still need to be disciplined in that more. Learning more and more every day, of course, now. But when I was younger, it was like, okay, go to church. And then Monday through Saturday, live your life. You know, probably reaching out to people like that too. Because understand, I'm going to give y'all a personal story. I actually used to work with people who practice this religion that they call. Literally in their house. Didn't even know what that altar represented. I was like, what the heck is this? I didn't even know what it represented. And again, this is one thing that I feel like the church has failed us in so many ways, because I personally feel over 90% of the churches now aren't really real churches for the right reasons in the first place. It's a business to them. They're not really even truly serious about getting people their salvation. But with that being said, I didn't know what it was. I saw this altar. One of the girls walked in tapping on it. And I said, what is this? And then they started mentioning certain names, Yimmy Ya and Oshun and all of this stuff. And I was like, I don't know what this is. But they were literally trying to talk to me about it. And I was like, what? And I'm thinking they just giving me knowledge. But I'm like, are they trying to recruit? Now that I'm looking at it now, I'm like, was they trying to recruit me? I think they was trying to recruit me. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay. But again, not thinking nothing of it, because it's not coming off aggressive. It's not coming off hostile. You know, it's coming off very loving and just trying to teach you some knowledge, sis. You know, so I've seen it firsthand. Certain beads that people wear and what that represents, the deity that represents them, the Oshuns, the Yimayas and stuff like that. It's deep. And again, we don't fight against flesh. We fight against spirit. So we have to be mindful of things that we see and do. You know, I have gotten to the point where I think now a lot of these reality shows just haven't been also attracted to me anymore, because spiritually I am evolving. So I'm like, is TV just sucks now? Which I think it does. But at the same time, is it because a lot of us may be spiritually maturing and evolving that these things just don't hit the same anymore? You know? So just wanted to talk to y'all about that. I know it was kind of deep, and I went in. I hope you guys understood. Y'all let me know if y'all still hear me in the chat, if y'all understood what I was saying and talking about. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. And it'll be quite interesting. I'm still not watching the Oscars. I'm telling you, these award shows are so boring to me. But I'll definitely find out by seeing social media and, you know, people like that who are going to say who's going to win and what's going to win. At this point, if these people who have consistently always predicted the Oscars right, then that means Sinners is going to get a good amount of the awards. Ryan Coogler is going to get Best Original Screenplay. Michael B. Jordan is going to get Best Actor. They're going to win Best Cinematography, possible Best Original Song, Original Score. You know, they're going to get those awards now. Best Picture, I don't know. It's between that and Battle. A lot of people feel, who are like big time movie buffs, that Sentimental Value should win a good amount of that. Now, that is an international film, though, but they feel Sentimental Value should win screenplay, writing screenplay, and Best Picture, and amongst other things. But just kind of talks about what people are willing to do just to kind of get to certain levels. And I'm not that girl. Because at the end of the day, I would rather wait on God than to sell my soul for industry, whatever they say, for accolades. Like when I tell you, and then you wonder why, in my opinion, some of these people lose their freaking minds, or they end up getting deep in substances, or they lose their lives very young. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. It really does. But at the same time, those who are true religious people that are in that industry and other industries also need to speak up more. Speak up more about what your beliefs are and how God has really protected you, and you have still been able to have a successful career without selling your soul. You know, because it seems like these people have no problem talking about it. They have no problem putting it in their music, putting it in their concerts, putting it in their films. So, and again, this is based off of what y'all heard yourselves. I played it all. So it's not me telling y'all, you heard yourself. And you can definitely tell Ryan Coogler's voice, because he is definitely Bay Area all day, every day, with that accent that he got and the way that he talked, baby. But so y'all heard it yourselves and what these people were saying. They're boldly saying it. So now what are you guys boldly going to do about it? For those who believe in what I believe in. Kevin says Jennifer Hudson too. Jennifer Hudson, what? Are you talking about the situation that happened with her family? Or are you saying that she's talking about more and more about this type of practices? Oh, thank you, Tracy. And again, some of y'all may disagree with me, which is perfectly fine. Some may actually want to disagree with me in the chat. Some may unfollow me. I mean, it is what it is. I've definitely been unfollowed before because people didn't agree, or they got very upset over the things that I'm saying. And that's perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. Because at the end of the day, it's about what I want to talk about. And hopefully my audience finds me, or my audience who understands what I'm saying stays with me. It is what it is, you know, but it's perfectly fine if you disagree. And if you want to talk about why you disagree respectfully, you can put it in the chat, or just, you know, say, hey, I agree with it, or there's a lot of spiritual stuff going on, which there is. There's a lot of spiritual stuff going on. There's a lot of different things going on right now in this world. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And so I always say you need to stay prayed up, baby. You need to stay prayed up, because it's just so many things. And I think people just want to be numb at this point with so many things going on. Inflation, how things cost. People just, they don't want to hear that there's definitely dark sides of things that they want to be entertained by. Like, they just want to be entertained to get their mind away from all of the darkness that's potentially going on in their personal world. So they want to be entertained. So they don't want to hear that maybe, just maybe, there's a dark side to the things that you're being entertained by too. They don't want to hear it, but hey, I agree with you as well about the industry, and they probably did conjure up more than they bargained for. Yeah. But see, the problem is all of that conjuring up and that dark side seems very sweet at first. Because again, it's like, oh, it's working. It's great. But then, as they say, the devil comes to collect. He gives you your desires of what you want, the desires of the world, but there's a cost with that. He comes to collect. So when you see all of a sudden these people who seem to be untouchable at one point in their career, and then all of a sudden these scandals come out, they on these lists and things start coming up, and then it's like, oh, well, you got the desires of what you wanted for a certain amount of years, but now things are going downhill for you, and now what? So yeah, it just shows you how deep things are. Everything is just it's just entertainment. A lot of this stuff is spiritual. It's spiritual. And I think people refuse to understand that. I would say everything is spiritual, to be quite honest. Everything. Even people who want to argue with you. When y'all have trolls that want to argue with you, that is spirit through them. Trying to start stuff, trying to get you, into a different zone. That all of that stuff is spirit. It's spirit. So I want to know what you guys think about this. We'll definitely continue the conversation in the chat. I'm shocked that I even got as many people who did listen in, because again, I wasn't expecting to go live today at all whatsoever. I just decided to talk about it because I was already talking about it with a friend, and I said, you know what? Why not share it on here? I was going to share it in members only, but I'm like, why not? I would like to see if certain people actually understand where I'm coming from and maybe been feeling the same thing. Because I have seen certain people in certain comment sections kind of also saying certain things like I'm saying. I'm like, okay, well, then I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Like that there's a lot of stuff going on here that's just like something is off here. It's off. But again, because we as Black people also don't get a lot of accolades, we're not supposed to question when one of our own get accolades. We're just supposed to be happy regardless of how they get it. I don't agree with that. But here's the thing. I don't agree with that with any race. But again, because I represent Black culture, because I'm a Black woman, I'm going to definitely see what our people do first. That's just what it is. But again, I can't rock with what I am seeing going on. It definitely seems interesting, but I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen at the Oscars, and see what's going on. I think we don't realize that a lot of things are very ritual and very spiritual. In fact, before I leave, there's this lady who is a doctor from Africa. I forgot her name, but they apparently said she was the one who had found the cure to the 2020 situation. I'm sure you guys maybe have heard about her, but apparently she's a Black woman who's from Africa. And apparently when she said she had found the so-called cure, they shut her down, or whatever the case may be, allegedly. Now, with that being said, there's a video circling around about her where she says there's more witchcraft going on in the United States more than any other place. And she said, in her opinion, and she said the reason why is because of how they do it. It's very subtle in how they actually put it through everything. She said in Africa, it is what it is. Like, they're bold with it because that's part of a lot of people's practices. She said there's more going on here than a lot of other places because of how they present it. There's a lot of things that we watch or are involved in, or what we do, that are very ritualistic, that we don't even know where, because we're so programmed to a certain extent. Look her up. You guys can probably find her on YouTube or Google her. But it was quite interesting when she said that. She says more witchcraft going on here in the United States than it is anywhere else because of how they present it. And you don't even realize that it's witchcraft. quite interesting, right? But with that being said, you guys, I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, let's continue the conversation in the chat. Give me your opinions on it, and for those who are upset because they feel like I'm trying to take Black people down and want to unfollow me, I still love you. I still love you. I have no hatred towards it. Again, I am at a point now where I try my best, even if I don't agree with someone's viewpoint, that I can just agree to disagree and move on. I am finding that a lot of people just emotionally, it goes to a dark place when they feel like someone is not agreeing with their beliefs or not agreeing with, just automatically celebrating people no matter what because they look like you. I don't do that. I used to do that, but then I realized I was getting screwed by doing that. Integrity and character is what matters to me, no matter what color someone is. And I think for me personally, by just automatically assuming that someone's Black, that they're going to be a certain way or act a certain way or have a certain moral compass and integrity, yeah, that never worked out for me. I got screwed thinking that because they look like me, they're going to handle things a certain way. So I'm very big on getting to see the side of people and who they are and what they represent before I just dig in, so to speak. Because again, you can have someone who's Black and they literally worship the devil. Am I supposed to root for them because they're Black? No, because I don't worship the devil. So I'm not going to do it. Point blank, period. But with that being said, you guys, thank you guys so much for listening. Let's continue the conversation in the chat, in the comment section. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on my next video. Toodles.